Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664. I'm your host, Les Winston. I'm the national spokesperson for socialsacharity.org, a project of the the Endow America Foundation Network.
Endow
America
America
Network Foundation. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, you
It's
get tongue
early,
twisted
it's here. We're Florida.
when
It takes us a while to get warmed up.
And Wanda is protecting me against the cold here. She's it's a little bit. You
It's
think
cold
we're
in here.
we're in Miami and
It's
we're
cold.
in a hanging meat place here.
I don't know why studios feel the need to keep things so cold because equipment might die.
It kills bacteria.
Forget about the humans that are freezing. But
Anyway,
hey,
it's good to be with you this morning, and we're gonna open the show a little bit with some of the review of what we did in the last couple of weeks. One of the things that we talked about was this the idea of the 5 Wishes booklet, and
yes.
we've now put it onto the website where if you're interested in obtaining a copy of the booklet that's produced by Aging with Dignity, if you'll go to the socialsacharity.org website, it'll be posted there and on the Facebook as well. Just click on the link and you can find out all about the 5 Wishes booklet. It's very important. It's one of the important documents in your life. Having a living will and a surrogate health statement helps to make sure that in the event that you can't give instructions for how you want to be cared for, that those instructions are written and somebody can interpret those for you. Your surrogate health person can do that for you and represent you in the case that you can't represent yourself. It's very important. You don't need to have an attorney to do those documents. They are valid in the state of Florida if they're properly witnessed. But the 5 Wishes booklet is a really wonderful way for you to look at the issue and to answer questions that you may have about how that works. The 5 Wishes booklet is Wanda is showing now on the screen.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so you go right to you can go right to our website and you'll find the link there.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Nicely put together. Of course, you'll get a very electronic digital one, but
Yeah, it's very important. It's a very important document. It's one of the most important documents besides having a will, having a revocable trust in the state of Florida to avoid probate, and those things you need to meet with your attorney and make sure that you're properly protected in the state of Florida with the right documents.
They can make this into an adult coloring book, and maybe people would enjoy that a little more too. Just to add that. It's just, I'm full of suggestions.
Creative mind, Wanda.
Ways to improve.
All right, so I did want to talk a little bit about safe schools, great schools. We're going to have some guests on in the future regarding that project that's a part of the Endow America Network Foundation, the Safe Schools, Great Schools project.
Yeah.
The idea that behind everything that we're doing is to create charitable wealth in the country. Charitable wealth is wealth that belongs to the nonprofit world, but it has to get there effectively, and it has to be created in large enough amounts so that they're meaningful to support nonprofit organizations. The idea of endowing America is to shift the way we are dealing with our financial structure in the country. We want to go from a country that's 30 trillion in debt, actually more than that, but we want to go from the debt to endowed. And the way that will happen is through social security devices. That's the best way to create the maximum amount of endowment.
And how long would that take?
Well, it's going to be, we have projected in our research that by the year 2050, if we're effectively able to do what we've projected, we can reduce the federal national debt by $28 trillion, bring it down to $2 trillion. We will have the effective rate. I know those are big numbers.
They're just funny numbers.
But actually, we've done the calculations.
What's next?
What's next?
Cajillion? Are we there yet? At a cajillion?
Quadrillion.
Cool. I don't know.
We'll be there yet. Soon
to see.
That's
We're almost there, folks.
That's 1,000 trillion.
All right.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Just making it up.
So we're going to have a wealth transfer in the country. It's going to go from the baby boom generation to the next generation. It's going to be substantial. It's estimated at anywhere from 69 trillion to 188 trillion and higher, depending on what the gross domestic product is, what the interest rates are, what the estate tax consequences are in the country. But in any event, there's going to be a huge transfer of wealth. The thing is that you have the ability and you have the right to reduce your taxes as much as legally possible That was a judgment rendered by the Honorable Learned Hand. He said that you're not duty bound to pay the most of the law extracts. You have the right and privilege to reduce your taxes as much as possible. And he also said that there are two taxpayers in the country. One taxpayer is the informed, and the other is the uninformed. And that's very important, that you be informed about social security and these devices so that you can use them. Otherwise, they're not available. So you can't use what you don't know.
Yep.
So what I wanted to do today was, there are some case studies that you can find on our website, socialsecurity.org, socialsecurity.org. The case studies are three different sets of situations, three different situations with three different patterns as far as the participants are concerned. So, Wanda, if you want to help,
yes.
give us the first case study, and we can kind of digest that and see
Do you want me to let you know?
Social charity actually works.
Did you decide which goes first, or do I just pick one?
Well, let's use let's say you're an older couple.
Oh, the older couple.
Okay.
This is a little ditty about Jack and Diane, both age 70. They received a brochure from their favorite charity offering them a charitable gift annuity. After consulting with their professional philanthropic advisor, they decided to gift a non-cash asset with a capital gain worth $200,000 to their favorite charity using the gift annuity.
Right. This is a really good example of
where do we go from here?
How social charity works. It is not for the ultra rich. It is not for the ultra wealthy in the country alone. They've been using it for many, many years. But in this case, Jack and Diane, at age 70, they had a home that they had purchased. It was a vacation home, and they had purchased it many years ago. And now, because of their current situation, they are not using it anymore. The home had gone up in value, and because it had gone up in value, if they were to sell it outright, they would have experienced a capital gains tax, and that tax would have taken away some of the value of what they were looking to use for retirement purposes. They needed to increase the amount they needed for retirement. So what happens when they make this gift to the charitable gift annuity, they're transferring the asset, the non-cash asset, the home, to the charitable gift annuity charity, and they're getting a tax deduction for that gift based on the value of that home, based on an appraisal. So they get a tax deduction. When that home is sold inside the charitable gift annuity, obviously Jack and Diane won't have any tax to pay because they no longer own the home. But the money, the proceeds that are received by the charitable gift annuity is now used to produce income for Jack and Diane for the rest of their life. And the benefit to them is that they now have the full value of their asset producing income, as opposed to the value of their asset less taxes producing income. And that makes a difference. The other thing that happens is that at the end of their lives, that gift that they made is now going to be used by the charity of their choice. Obviously, they want to support this charity that has sent them information. Obviously, there have been donors to that charity in the past. So they will get a very substantial gift at the end of their lives. This is a very simple, kind of straightforward way of making a charitable gift that has an income potential plus the tax deduction, and also can help a nonprofit. And it is, in this case, used for older, mostly, I would say over 55 individuals.
They're both age 70.
Yeah. So they're taking advantage of that particular type of social
20, 30
charity.
years left in them, I'm sure.
Say again?
They've got a good 20, 30 years left in them, I'm sure, Jack and Diane.
Well, that's one of the things that happens with the charitable gift annuity, is that it creates income that you can't outlive. In other words, it's going to continue for their entire life, which is another benefit. And they don't have to worry about living too long. That's one of the hazards that we try and protect against.
Could be a problem, folks, these days.
Yes, it can be. So the second case study that we have on our website is about Mike. Mike is a 50-year-old who would like to contribute $500,000 in closely held corporate stock. And as we've discussed previously, you can gift almost anything to these social charity devices, including closely held corporate stock. And one of the questions that's asked is, well, how do you value closely held corporate stock? Because it's not listed on the stock exchange. So what has to happen is the corporation has to obtain an appraisal of its value, of how that corporate stock would be valued, and that appraisal is done for gift tax purposes, so that you can measure the actual value of the shares at the particular time when that corporate stock is gifted to a charitable device. So in this case, Mike, he consulted his professional philanthropic advisor, and that philanthropic advisor helped him create a charitable remainder trust, which is a social charity device. That's Section 664 creates charitable remainder trusts.
Yeah.
In this case, Mike is the trustee of
Nice.
the trust, and he's also the income beneficiary of the trust.
Sweet.
So what happens is, Mike, at a particular point in the year, and if he wants the tax deduction in for that particular year, he has to do it before December 31st. He would pick a number of shares. In this case, he wanted to transfer $500,000 worth of his closely held corporate stock. It turned out that his closely held corporation was worth about $5 million, so this represented about 10% of the shares of his corporate stock. So he contributed 10% of the shares of his closely held corporation to his charitable remainder trust. And in doing so, he accomplished quite a few things. Number one, he created a significant tax deduction that he could use in the year that he made this contribution. If he wasn't able to use the entire charitable deduction in that year, he'd have the right to carry it forward for another 5 years. So from a planning perspective, this is a way for that individual to create lower taxes for himself in that year and in future years.
Very good.
The other thing that happened is that he was not really interested in getting more income in the year that he made this gift, because in the current situation that he was in, because he's got too much income, and that's one of the reasons why he wanted to get a tax deduction.
There's no such thing as too much income, Les.
Well, there is if you're trying to avoid, if you want to maintain, or if you want to, it's not having too much income. It's how do you keep more of what you have legitimately. And again, you know, the government has given us these devices. It's not something that is coming out of nowhere. These are devices that the government has provided.
I know.
And the purpose of that was to create the charitable wealth. So Mike is going to receive, and he set it up as a 7% trust. When he created the trust, he could have created the trust with any income percentage that he wanted, but it has to be balanced against, because the higher the income percentage that you want to take from the trust, the lower the tax deduction. So in this case, he wanted to get a particular type of tax deduction, and he was willing to take willing to limit himself to the 7% of income from this trust. So what happened is he transferred $500,000 of corporate stock into the charitable trust, got a significant tax deduction for doing that based on his age and the fact that he was going to be taking 7% from the trust. And this is one of the differences, by the way. I want to stress this as a part of this planning process. When you make a gift to charity directly, you get 100% tax deduction for that gift. The entire amount of the gift is a tax deductible gift. But when you're using a split interest trust, and we've talked about that before, these charitable remainder trusts, these social charity trusts, are split interest trusts. They provide an income to an individual, and at the end of the day, the balance goes to charity. So because it is not a gift directly to charity today, what they give you a tax deduction for is the ultimate gift that they estimate you will leave behind after you've taken income from the trust. Now, I don't want to get into the gobbledygook, but it's,
Oh.
we always, and that's one of the things
Gobbledygook.
it's hard to do. We want to stay away from it. I'd like to keep it as simple
That's a
as
technical
possible.
term, of course. We don't,
Yes.
we don't use
Gobbledygook
these
is in the
terms
section of the code you can
lightly around
gobbledy,
here.
actually related to turkeys.
Hmm.
So the object here is, or the process, and it is a process. It's not like you're going out and buying an oven or a refrigerator in this case. It's a process that you need to go through. And in order for Mike to have decided to give $500,000 worth of his corporate stock, we had to know that he could afford to do that. We had to know what his, whether the income that he needed was going to be needed at that particular point in time. And in this case, he didn't need income from the charitable trust, so we created what's called a net income trust, and that meant that only income that was earned by the trust would be distributed to him up to 7%. So you have ways that you can turn on and off income in these trusts by virtue of what they're invested in. So if you invest in something that doesn't produce income today, but rather appreciates in value and grows over time, and then at some point in the future you turn it into an income-producing property, you can control the way income is distributed from these trusts. So what Mike was able to do, he got the promise of future income from this gift. He got a current tax deduction, which will allow him to pay approximately $100,000 less in tax, and that's
Way to
a
go,
considerable
Mike.
savings. And at Mike's death, something very important will be done, and that's where the Social Security turns into the endowment side, where the split interest asset, where the charity is now going to benefit by the maturing of this trust in their favor, meaning Mike has passed away, and as the only income beneficiary of this trust, now that trust becomes the property of the charity that he decided to leave it to. So he has control over how this asset will be invested. He has control over where it's going to go at his death, and he can control how the income stream is going to be utilized during his lifetime. And he gets a significant tax deduction for doing that. So the government really rewards you for doing this kind of planning in a very substantial way. And these are very powerful tools. And if you're not familiar with them, how to use them, I hope that you'll go to the socialcharity.org website, take a look at some of these case studies, and get a hold of this idea, this concept of how you can do financial planning using these tools.
I like to call it die responsibly.
Die responsibly.
Die responsibly.
That's
if you're
good.
gonna,
I
you're
like
gonna.
that.
And
Die
you're gonna.
responsibly, as opposed to dying irresponsibly.
Exactly.
So,
you could.
So now we've dealt with the charitable gift annuity, which
Yes.
is a form of social charity. That's charitable gift annuities are done by charities themselves,
Jack
and you
and
have
Diane,
to find
yes.
a charity that has a charitable gift annuity, and one that you like to support, so that at the end of the day, when that charitable gift annuity matures, that organization will have the benefit of the asset that you left to them, and that would be part of their endowment. We've also now discussed charitable remainder trust, which is another form of social charity under Section 664, which is what this program is all about. And that's another way for you to create an endowment, but also to benefit while you're alive, to get guaranteed income, to improve the income that you have, reduce your taxes, but also at the end of the day, leave something very good for the community. The third form of social charity is a little bit more complex.
There's more, and that's a lot.
Yeah. This one is a long case history, a case story, but I'll shorten it in a sense.
How much time do we have? Enough time? I think we do.
Yeah, do we? Okay, we can do one more. So this social charity case study is using multiple gifts, and it's to a pooled income fund. And this is from a high-income, married, young professional couple who are under 45. And this really was stimulated by the tax law changes that occurred in the last tax law change that was created during the Trump administration. And that was that it set up parameters for limitations on how much income you could earn in a professional corporation before you went out of the benefit of the 20% rule. I don't want to get into any more detail than that, except to say that in this case, this couple wanted to find a way to reduce their income in a particular year so they would qualify for a better tax position under the way the tax laws were written. So what they decided to do was to make a substantial gift in the first year. They had additional savings that they had put together because they had they were earning a lot of income. In this case, Jane's taxable income, filing jointly with her husband, was $367,000 in the year 2018. And by exceeding the $315,000 taxable income threshold, her 199A deduction was reduced, causing Jane and her husband to pay more income tax.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They had some goals.
All right, that's good.
They did want to produce an additional $4,500 a month at Jane's age 65, so they wanted to increase their retirement income by another $4,500. And they did that because the amount that they were going to get or able to produce through their normal 401k contributions and through any other savings that they had was going to be short for what they needed for retirement purposes. And in this case, just to be clear, they were working on the premise that their retirement income needed to be the same as what their income was prior to retirement.
Wow.
So that when they reached age 65 in one day, and they were no longer working, assuming they retired at age 65, if they reached age 65 in one day and retired, they wanted to know that the amount of income that they had before retirement would continue the day after retirement and not have to make substantial changes to their lifestyle going forward so that they could live in the style that they were accustomed to for as long as they lived. And that's the ideal retirement planning. That's the ideal planning against living too long. Not everybody
assuming
has
their children have left the house too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Their kids are grown, and they don't have the responsibility of taking care of the kids, though today the responsibility goes pretty long. But the point of it is that through this type of charitable social charity planning, they were able to use the pooled income fund to get a very significant tax deduction, even though they're under age 45. And they did that in a way that created a reduced income for a period of time because they, again, didn't want to have too much income. And then at a point in time, the investments that this particular pooled income fund was providing would start to produce a lot more income. And that's the objective that they were trying to fulfill, is to get more income at retirement, in addition to reducing the taxes in the year that they had this windfall income. And they were able to also create a very significant gift that would be paid to their alma mater at the time that they both passed away. So once both of the income recipients passed, that was the case in this case. They were going to leave the money to endow a school that was very, very favorable for them, for their kids. And so we're going to leave an endowment for that school. And that kind of brings us to grade schools.
Grade schools.
Yeah. It's this kind of planning that is available to anyone, any taxpayer, or even if you're not a taxpayer, you can still be a philanthropist. Philanthropy is not governed by the amount of money that you make, but rather the spirit that's in your heart and the feelings that you have for the community. So in showing you these case studies, I'm trying to give you a flavor of how many varieties of approaches can be taken by a professional philanthropic advisor who's working with you to determine what you can and can't do. But Safe Schools, Grade Schools, which is a project of the Endow American Network Foundation, is open to any individual who wants to do planning to help a particular school that they care about. We're attempting to get endowment built so that we can help provide income or provide support to our schools. you may not know this, but you can provide a gift to the Dade County School Board if you wanted to make a gift to them in addition to your taxes.
Can you do it to a particular? You can't do it, well, public schools, but can you do a particular school? Maybe, I guess, private schools and
well, you
charter
can't
schools.
make the gift to the school, but you can provide the school with benefits.
Gotcha.
In other words, if you've created a fund that's going to pay the income from that fund is going to be paid to a support group for a particular school, then yeah, it could be paid to the PTA, it could be paid to
Awesome.
Whatever they want to do to help make their children's lives better in school, make the school a better school overall,
Safe
make it
school,
safer,
great school.
and in particular now with the COVID issue
Definitely.
and budgetary issues, it's really difficult for us to really do what's necessary to make the schools safe. Because it's always about money. And we hope that by creating endowment for schools, endowment for schools in Florida and around the country, we want to make the schools safer and greater. You can certainly provide funding for, band uniforms, trips, specific lab equipment. There's things that you can give to the school system to make the schools better and greater schools and to keep them safe. We also want to encourage the funding of ways to help the problem students so that they don't fall by the wayside. We want to create the funding necessary to make sure they have counseling and therapy and things that are necessary. Those are things that are really hard for our current school administrators to deal with because they're always operating on a limited budget, and it's just the way it is. We in the state of Florida, that most of what the support is that the school system gets is through taxes, through the tax on real estate and property. But we can benefit. We can give an adjunct to that. We can create additional funds. And it can be specific to a school, it can be specific to a county, it can be specific to the state. But you have the power to do that. And if you can do that while also helping yourself and your family, that's a win-win.
It's everybody helping everybody. That's what it's all about. 6654, it's the missing piece.
The missing
there you go.
PEAC. Yes,
it
and
is
it's your human kindness.
It connects everything.
Yes, it does. Make sure you go to the website, socialcharity.org. Check us out on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
get your 5 Wishes booklet.
Share. And don't forget the 5 Wishes booklet as well.
Yes, that's waiting for you.
And if you have any questions or want to reach a professional philanthropic advisor, you can find that information on the website as well. So make use of that resource. It's a pretty powerful tool. The whole concept of social charity can turn the country into a much, much better place overall in the world.
And before we go, next week our guest is the author of Humankind, Brad Aronson. It's a great book. Gives you all the feels. So back here next Thursday. Okay.
Thank you. And how are we doing on time?
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Tommy, it's all yours.
Got it.
Okay.